stands for obsessive compulsive disorder. The characteristics for OCD include obsessions that are unwanted, intrusive thoughts, images, or urges that trigger intensively distressing feelings. For example, the fear of being contaminated by germs or dirt or contaminating others. Compulsives are behaviors that an individual spends lots of times cleaning or washing, engages to attempt to get rid of the obsessions and decrease his or her distress. For example, this has been estimated approximately 2.3% of the population between the ages 18 and 54 suffer from OCD. That is one out of 40 to 50 people that are affected by some form of obsession or compulsion. According to the latest OCD statistics, experts estimate that 1 to 3% of the U.S. population suffer from OCD, and one in every 200 children have OCD.
What is OCD?
OCD stands for obsessive compulsive disorder, and part of this disorder involves people doing certain rituals over and over because they feel that it will either produce an intended result or because they feel like they have to do it. There are ways that people can compensate for these things and learn how to make up for doing these rituals in different ways.
What is OCD?
OCD is, I know it's when you are overly sure of something, you keep going over and do things, and you keep, like I have part OCD, even not knowing what it means. It's dysfunction, where I do things, I double check it to make sure it's right, and you over think yourself, right?
OCD. I think of it as where like you can't like stay still for like a very long time. Yeah, and you have to like you kind of have to keep like moving, and you can't really like sit still. Mrs. Feeks, what is OCD?
OCD is a mental health condition that's characterized by distressing, intrusive, usually obsessive thoughts that can be repetitive and compulsive in nature. It's considered a disorder in the Diagnostical and Statistical Manual of Disorders. And it's called obsessive compulsive disorder.
Okay. So, what are common causes of OCD?
There could be a couple of causes. There's actually no known cause specifically. There have been studies that it can be hereditary. I know that was actually one of your questions. It can be hereditary, but they've also found that neurologically, they found that there's an imbalance of serotonin, the chemical serotonin in the brain. Also, they mentioned Lyme. I mean, this is more current research. People who have been affected with Lyme's disease later in life may develop OCD tendencies. Behavioral causes, there's also that type where things in the environment, certain people will develop OCD later in life basically because of fear.
Hi, I'm Ellie Swartz.
We really loved your book. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a few questions to ask you.
Okay.
Why did you choose to write about OCD?
My books always start with a character like that comes into my head. I don't really know why that character comes into my head, but that character plants itself in my brain and kind of stays there. What I knew about Molly when she kind of came into my brain space was that she was really scared, really worried, very vulnerable, had undiagnosed OCD. But the other thing I knew about her was that she was so much braver and stronger than she knew. So, and then I started researching OCD. I found out that like 500,000 kids in the United States have it. And I thought the more I got to know Molly, like by just kind of living with the character for a while, the more I loved her, and there was no way I could not tell her story. She had a voice and a story, and I was committed to writing it.
The challenges that people face with OCD is enduring a confusing experience of repetitive thoughts and rituals. People with OCD face depression, which are feelings of low thoughts, self-esteem, anxiety, and unclear thinking. OCD also comes with trying to resist compulsions and expressions, which is very hard for them. Some people that have OCD think the answer to their problem is hiding their symptoms, but it's really not, instead of addressing someone about it. The treatment for OCD is the biggest challenge that people with OCD will ever face, because changing things for people with OCD is fearful for them and very difficult because they're too afraid. And they also procrastinate about making, and they have difficulty making decisions. They ask repetitive questions, and when doing something, they always need reassurance because they always think that it's wrong.
Why are you washing your hands so much?
Oh, I have to protect my little brother from getting sick.
What are you doing?
Your color pencils are a mess. They're just not neat enough. Oh my gosh, I'm going to die.
You're weird.
Ew, someone's sick. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I better do it again so my siblings don't get sick. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. A perfect even number.
We usually focus on the negatives of disorders or disabilities, but there are a lot of positives to them too. Like OCD, people might think that everything is confusing because everything has to be perfect, but there are good things that come from trying to make things perfect. For example, when one has OCD, they are really creative. Having OCD makes people think of ways to solve problems because they can create ideas in a short period of time. Another example is people with OCD have attention to detail. This is true because looking at an object or something with OCD, people can see all the things that are misplaced and it makes them have to fix it. Lastly, in relation to that, people with OCD often dominate tasks. When they see something that doesn't look right to them, they have to try and fix it until it's perfect.
One may not think that OCD is a serious condition, but it can take control of your life. If you have OCD, a way one can prevent it is you can exercise to relieve the anxiety and refocusing your mind when obsessive thoughts and compulsions arise. You can try to get 30 minutes or more of aerobic activity on most days. Aerobic activity releases endorphins and stress, so after a hard aerobic exercise, the individual with the condition will feel calmer and more at ease. Some effective treatments are a type of CBT called exposure and responsive prevention. This has the strongest evidence supporting its use in the treatment of OCD, or a class of medications called SRI. After this presentation, I hope you understand what OCD is and really try to take action in helping this condition.